How long's it been this time since I last uploaded? Let's have a little look. Oh, only just over a month. That's not too bad. Maybe I'm getting better at this. So let's talk about Secret Invasion, because it's actually one of the Marvel projects, or if not the Marvel project, I was most hopeful for post-Avengers Endgame. It was one thing that I personally really wanted to see Marvel do. I had quite an investment in it because I used to watch the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon. I loved that when I was like 14, 15. It had 2 seasons and one of them was all Secret Invasion themed, and I saw what they could do with that and what a big event that was in the Marvel universe, and thought just anything like that in the MCU would be insane. Admittedly, when I found out it was just going to be a Nick Fury show and more kind of like an espionage thing, I was a little disappointed, but I knew why. You weren't going to assemble all the Avengers again for an event so soon just to be like, who's a Skrull, who's not, and it also has implications on individual stories, that kind of thing. If you make too many of them Skrulls, it ruins character development, so I totally get that. And I was actually quite excited about the idea of there being a Nick Fury solo show, him taking the helm and giving Samuel L. Jackson the chance to properly flex his acting chops in a Marvel project. That really excited me. And all in all, the show was pretty good. I'm going to go into it right now and say that I did have fun with this show. But I want to talk a little bit about the things that I didn't like, things I thought it could have done better, but also praise the things that I did really like about this show. Just give my general thoughts and then see what you guys think in the comments below if you have any opinions on Secret Invasion, or if you didn't watch it even. Let me know your thoughts on it overall. We'll be interested to know. So let's talk about what I liked. There's quite a few things that I really, really liked, and one of the first things that I want to talk about is performances, because right across the board, everybody, in my opinion, that was chosen for any kind of side or lead role did their job perfectly. Some of the stand out to me, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson is the easy one to go for with him being the lead, but he was phenomenal. There were some absolutely brilliant scenes. In particular, one of my favourites being the scene in episode 2 with Talos in the train car talking about, how there's a million Skrulls on Earth and them having that argument. That was phenomenal. It gave Samuel Jackson, as I said, a bit of chance to actually push Nick Fury a bit more beyond being just the side character. I think the closest we got to seeing more of him or getting a bit more of an impression of him was either in the first Avengers film or in Captain Marvel. There's not really been too much of him outside of that. I mean, he faked his death in Winter Soldier, fine, but it's neither here nor there. It's kind of like he's had a few pop-ups but not had a chance to take the lead. And I'm glad he finally got that, because he proved why he's Nick Fury, because he's absolutely brilliant. I think he portrayed the whole idea of Nick Fury being a bit more old and weary and not having his eyes and ears anymore really well. And I think it's actually quite interesting from a lore perspective, knowing where those eyes and ears came from, because he had all these Skrull operatives, and now that the Skrulls are not really very well tied to him post-blip, it explains why he's not quite as powerful as he once was, or influential, I should say. And I think that was a really interesting thing to experiment with. I think having Nick Fury be a bit more of an aged-up character, because, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson is no spring chicken. I mean, the dude looks amazing for 72. How old is Samuel L. Jackson? 74 years old! There you go. There's my evidence. So, he looks nothing like 74, in my opinion, but Nick Fury and Samuel Jackson, they're getting a bit older. You want a more grizzled, hardened Nick Fury, and I think his performance was amazing. My personal runners-up, though, are Olivia Colman, Kingsley Ben-Adir, and Ben Mendelsohn. I think Emilia Clarke was brilliant, but I don't think she was given enough to do until, the last episode. And there were a couple of other characters here and there that I did really like. But Olivia Colman in particular, I mean, I just really like her anyway. She's such a lovely person and a genuinely phenomenal actress. If you haven't seen Broadchurch, go and watch it. She's amazing in that. But it almost felt more in this show like she was just playing Olivia Colman. And I mean that in the greatest way possible, because she is that kind of bubbly, jokey, but also, knows how to get stuff done. She's got that kind of attitude a little bit in real life, and I like seeing that portrayed in a Marvel character. I think Sonya was just such a brilliant person. And again, like Emilia Clarke, was not given that much to do, in my personal opinion, but the scenes that she had, I thought had much more weight. Dealing with some of the Skrulls and the Rosa Dalton Skrull in episode 5, talking about, gaslighting and all that. Some of her scenes were just absolutely brilliant. They were really, really good. So she was a standout. But Kingsley Ben-Adir, I mean, for me, it was even weirder because I've just seen him in the Barbie movie, and seeing him go from grizzled Skrull that's running a rebellion to really friendly Ken that's really, really lovely, back to I'm going to beat the living hell out of Nick Fury, was a bit of a jarring jump. But it just goes to speak volumes about Kingsley's range. I think he did absolutely amazingly, and especially in the final episode, the dude stepped it up immensely. His performance, having the one-on-one with Nick Fury, guy or not, was absolutely phenomenal, and one of the better MCU villain performances I've seen in a while. I think he portrayed a really interesting character who also created stakes for the show. He took 2 very good characters and likable characters that I personally really liked, Maria Hill and Talos, both off the board to try and establish his power level, and I think they did that fairly well with the time they were given, an issue we'll get into in a minute. But speaking of Talos, Ben Mendelsohn, I'm gonna miss you, man. I really am. He was so good in Captain Marvel, his little cameo in Far From Home, and this, his whole character was funny, he was likable, he was charming, he knew how to get stuff done, And I get why they killed him off. His death makes more sense in this show because it drove Gaia to be a more mature, evolved person who understood what she needed to do to stop Gravik. I get that. And it also gave us some of the best, like, facial makeup, having the mix between Ben and Talos in episode 4. That was visually gorgeous. So well done. But I'm gonna miss him. I mean, especially considering there've been so many other deaths in the show, I really hoped his was going to be a fake out in some way, shape or form. But I held out more hope that Maria Hill would be a fake out. And unfortunately, she wasn't. So while I'm still talking about characters, let's just mention, it's such a shame that Kobe Smulders was going on record saying you get to see more of Maria Hill than ever before, and then she died in episode 1. I'm a massive How I Met Your Mother fan. I think Kobe Smulders is a fantastic actress. I really, really love her, but she has never really been given much time to shine in Marvel. I know she said that she's quite happy. She appeared in a load of different projects. She's had fun with it. That's fine. But I was really keen to see her get a lot more to do at the same time as Samuel, and I really do hate that she wasn't given that chance. I did honestly think they pulled the rug out from under us and bring her back in like the last episode or something and say she got like Tahiti protocol. Isn't that what happened to Coulson? He died and then was back for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you asked me to choose between the two, I'd have saved Maria, not Coulson. Is that a hot take? I haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I don't have as much investment in that horse, but you get my point. I just feel like it's such a shame that Maria Hill didn't get a chance to shine in the one show where she probably would have done. But while we're on the case of positives, I also want to talk a bit about the sound and visuals. I think the visuals, I mean, I've always loved the Skrull transformation graphic and the way that they kind of change their face, and the way that's done visually I think is absolutely fantastic. I think the CGI across the board in this show was pretty damn strong. There's a couple of shots where people go, doesn't look as good. Emilia Clarke with the Drax arm is a bit jarring, but I know I'm not someone who tends to rail on CGI a lot, but when I spot something particularly jarring, I will look and go, ugh. But I didn't really feel like I did that at all in Secret Invasion, which was nice. But also, I don't think there was tons of need for CGI as much in certain places in this show, because a lot of it was more meant to be the spy espionage type thing. I think most of the CGI budget probably went into the fight between Gravik and Gaia in episode 6. But they certainly cut corners on artists, though, because I've got to mention the intro. The intro is the most annoying thing for me, because it's got one of my absolute all-time favourite Marvel themes already in the Secret Invasion theme, the Nick Fury title sequence. That piece of music is just phenomenal. It's been stuck in my head for ages. It's been on top of my Spotify on repeat for like weeks because I'm that kind of nerd that listens to Marvel soundtracks. But it's ruined by the AI thing. I know I'm like the 5 millionth person to comment on this, but especially in the middle of a writer's strike in America, where one of the big issues is actors being concerned over the use of AI to basically make actors useless because you can just generate performances with computers. Why on earth have we got an AI intro for Secret Invasion? They kind of went, oh, because, AI isn't quite human and Skrulls aren't quite human. No, you have made absolutely phenomenal intros for a whole host of shows. There is absolutely no excuse. I get what you're trying to say, but you know what? Draw some art as humans that looks a bit dodgy. Do it yourself. Don't rely on AI. Because AI pulls from real life art. It's literally taking from inspired sources without credit to create something itself. That's not good. Every week I was like, do I skip the intro? I don't like the visuals, but I love the music. What do I do? So that was a whole other mess, and that's one of the things I didn't like. But the big reason that I'm making this video, and the thing I want to talk about for this show specifically, is the length. You know how people say size doesn't matter? In this case, it really, really does, because this show was not long enough. If I was to tally up, I'm going to open Disney Plus right now, in fact, and I'm going to tally up the runtime of this full show. Because often when Disney Plus shows get announced as these 6-episode big set pieces, they go, it's a 6-hour television event. And it's never been that. Even with WandaVision, it wasn't 6 hours, and there was 9 episodes there. But with Secret Invasion in particular, I'm going to try and remove time for credits. We've got about 50 minutes each for episodes 1 and 2, so that's an hour and 40. Maybe 2 hours 20 with episode 3 on. And then after that, you've got pretty much 3 30-minute episodes, so it's under 4 hours the runtime, 3.5, 3.75 hours for this show. So if you'd taken a few scenes out, you probably could have had a pretty long movie sat there, and people have argued in the past that some MCU TV shows should have been films. This is not one of them. I genuinely feel that one of my main issues with this show is they absolutely squandered the runtime because there was not much used, but what we had was really good. I loved a lot of the scenes. There wasn't much in this show where I was sat going, where's this going? There were a couple of bits in like episode 5 or 6 where I was like, don't know where this is going to go, and we haven't got much time. But if you'd actually had 6 50-minute episodes, the amount of more depth you could have got into, the amount of like just exploring more characters, getting more backstory, getting to see more scenes that just didn't happen. I mean, Talos' wife, Gaia's mum, was killed off screen before the show started. That could be that the actress wasn't available or something, and that's why they did that. But there's little bits like that just scream of there's information here we could have been told or found out about or seen more of that we just didn't because the episodes were barely there and then they were gone. A lot of people are saying episodes 1 and 2 were the best because of how much there was there, and I don't disagree with you. I personally did really love episode 4. I thought episode 4 was a really brilliant one, just for seeing Talos trying to defend, like, you know, the president and try and make the case that Skrulls will be there to save the day. But then that narrative is ruined later on, because, like, the whole point was he was saying if we help the Americans and the human race as a whole, they'll then return the favor and help us out. It's a nice idea, maybe a bit idealistic, fair enough, but I would have thought that the story could have gone in some kind of direction like that to help. But instead, the president, who's going to be replaced by Harrison Ford in a year or so anyway, is like, no, all Skrulls must die, and all non-humans as well. There's a lot of people in Marvel Comics that are not human or not from Earth that are on Earth. So I don't know what that means. What if the Guardians of the Galaxy land on Earth? They're going to get shot at now? Like, what are we doing with that? I don't know. It just felt like such a strange way to use that narrative. And honestly, the president announcing this whole shoot every Skrull, even if they're, you know, ended up being replaced by people, as we saw a couple of times, it's such an interesting narrative that I think could have served as a really good bridge into a third act of episodes. That could have been a great episode 6, and then had 7, 8, and 9 be the chaos that erupts from that. Who really is a Skrull, who isn't? Because that kind of twist reveal thing wasn't used very much in this show, which is something I was hoping I get to see. Rhodey was revealed to be a Skrull, which was a very common theory, and a few people didn't like how it was kind of one and done, and it was just a quick switch in the mirror. But I mean, it was pretty obvious going through Rhodey was going to be a Skrull, so I wasn't too bothered by that. But I would have liked a few more moments like that of, are they a Skrull, are they not? I felt a lot of them were relatively safe, and any characters revealed to be Skrulls were not in the plot long enough for it to matter. So it just screams to me that Marvel need to get rid of this 6-episode format, because WandaVision and She-Hulk are 2 shows that did something different, to different levels of success and quality, I would argue. WandaVision, still one of the best shows they've ever done. She-Hulk, better than some people make it out to be, but on reflection, I'm like, it's not amazing. Both of them actually broke the 6-episode format and did different things. I don't like that these shows are so ingrained to following that format that it sometimes serves as a detriment to them. I think that really sucks. There are some cut scenes in the trailers I've looked back on, like the Department of Damage Control. They were meant to show up, they were in the trailer, never appeared. So many shots of that. The shot of Emilia Clarke holding a body on the road, which was presumably going to be Talos' body, that never made the cut. And that would have made me cry. I was nearly, like, crying my eyes out at Talos dying. I just about kept it in thinking, oh, maybe he'll come back, maybe he'll be alright, and then he wasn't. But if they'd shown us that shot, that would have really got me emotionally. But they just kind of skipped to him just being in the back of a van with her staring at his body. There were just some scenes like that that just could have been put in to flesh things out a bit more, I feel like. That's just me personally, I don't know. Shows like Loki nail 6 episodes, I think. That show was perfect. 6-episode length run, that was great. But then you got shows like Secret Invasion that should have just been 9 episodes, or at least with the 6 we had, added more to it. Have President Ritson announcing the attack on Skrulls in episode 4 or 5 so you got time to build on it. I just really feel like there's a lot of potential in the show that was squandered, and it really, really sucks, because overall, I'd still give this show like a 7 out of 10, like probably tops. I'd give it more, but there just wasn't enough to talk about. I'd love to give it an 8, but I'm just like, is there enough? I don't know. I just wish that there'd been a bit more to talk about. That's what really breaks my heart about this show. I think the performances were standout, the music was standout, I really like the visuals, I love a lot of the tone and the setting and everything around it, apart from just how little we got in some places. But with all that being said and done, I'm very glad Nick Fury isn't dead. I mean, I know the trailer, well, it was like one last fight, and people were like, is this going to be the end of Nick Fury? But we knew he was going to be in the Marvel, so people were saying, would he die and then have a Skrull take his role in the future? Glad they haven't done that. I'm very, very glad. In fact, you can tell next to me here, I'm very excited for The Marvels. If you don't know, I'm a massive Captain Marvel fan. I loved that first film, and I also loved what they did with the Skrulls in that film, which is why I was so excited for this show. Maybe the Marvels will touch up on more stuff to do with the Skrulls, like this whole Kree peace talk thing, but I don't know if they will, purely because they're going to be focusing on Carol, Monica, and Kamala already. Are you really going to add Skrulls into that? I don't know. I want them to, because it would fit the Captain Marvel sequel thread of having more Skrull stuff, but how much breathing room is the film going to have? I don't even know if we know the runtime yet. I think it's a bit too soon to tell, so we'll see. I just really hope that President Ritson isn't just, like, replaced off screen. As I hinted at earlier, it's already been announced that Harrison Ford is playing the recast Thunderbolt Ross, originally played by the late William Hurt, and he's going to be the president in Captain America 4, which I think comes out next year? Yeah, Captain America 4's next year, and Harrison Ford is Thunderbolt Ross, Red Hulk, whatever, but he's the president. So Ritson is not going to be there for very long anyway, and Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury saying, you just did some one-term president behaviour, it makes me worry they're just going to get rid of him off screen, and if Talos died to save a president who is then replaced off screen and didn't do anything to help the Skrulls in return, that is going to suck a little bit more, especially for someone who loved Ben Mendelsohn's performance and loved Talos so much. I'm going to hate that. I'm going to leave it there because I do feel like I'm getting super negative on it, and I don't like being negative about things. I think people know this about me by now. I always try and find the good in stuff, and I think I've made it clear in this show. There's a lot of good. It's just the couple of gripes I have really wear me down a little bit on this show, so I don't know how to feel. But like I said, please do let me know what you think in the comment section down below. We'll be very interested to know your opinions. But I'm going to wrap this video up here. I'm going to do some more videos soon. I always say this. I was thinking about doing something on Barbenheimer, but I may table that. I want to talk a bit more about some Marvel stuff. I know I was going to do like a Phase 4 looking back review thing, so I may well do that, even though we're a few months into Phase 5 now. We'll see. I'm going to give it some thought and decide what to do next, but I want to put more stuff on this channel, especially now Red Archer Live is actually back to life, getting several videos a week. I want to put a couple more out on here too. But either way, thank you all very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you are new and you want to see some more content whenever I decide to upload next. With all being said, my name is Troy, and these were my thoughts.